Welcome to Blue Goose Garage. I wasn't originally going to make a video on this because I felt like in a way it could be taken as disrespectful. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. And if I hadn't have seen all this, I never would have made this video. Before I tell you this, I'm going to tell you all I know about a particular 91 Geo Metro. In 2000, my dad bought it, and it had around 192,000 miles on it. It had a burn valve. Dad put an engine in it. He drove it for a little while. It burned the valve again because the engine we put in it was wore out. It sat for a little while. Dad rebuilt the engine. He put rings and did a valve job and stuff. And then it sat for a little while. My uncle Harvey, that passed away, needed a car to drive the cancer treatments because his truck and car was costing him a fortune. Dad let him borrow this car. He drove it for 2 or 3 years, and he put about, well, it's pretty easy to figure that out. I know that he rolled over the odometer because somewhere down there in the garage, I've got paper where I wrote the miles down. When Harvey got the car, it had like 20,000 miles showing. It rolled over once, and when he passed away, it had 74,000 miles. So that is 374,000 miles. In March of 2011, Danny bought the car off of Dad. Had 374,000 miles on it. And drove it and drove it and drove it and went everywhere in it. And then some. And by August of 12, it rolled over to 400,000. And then October of 18, 500,000. We get a little spotty right here, but at the least, it's 543,000. And I kind of believe there's enough time, and if you look at this, you might agree with me, there's enough time differences in miles here that could be another 100,000. So it could be 600, but 500, we'll say it's 543,000 miles. I'll let you look through this a little bit with me. You see, when he bought it, he kept record of everything he bought for that car from 2011 until a couple months ago. Wasn't really driving it as much as he was. The last thing I did to it was weld the exhaust back on back in August. Danny will be missed. He was a really good person. He was a really good friend. There's very few customers that I have that basically are kind of like family besides family. And Danny was one of those. He will be missed. And he is missed. After seeing everything he kept up with for 12 years, I think he would have enjoyed this video. Let's walk around the car and I'm going to tell you some stories on Harvey and Danny. And me as far as that goes. That car was originally my first car. I used to drive it around in the field up here. Honestly, I was way too hard on it. I knocked the radiator support back when I went through a rut in the field up here. About ripped the radiator support plumb off of it, and that was when I was 13, 14, 20 years ago. After all that abuse and the fact that the people that Dad bought the car off of was hard on it. This car's been shot at. When it was clean, you could still see peppering on that quarter panel. It's been through ditches. It had been wrecked hard enough before we got it that a body shop had pulled that frame rail back out, and you could tell that they heated it to do it. It's been through the factory engine, and then this one. This engine came out of a car that my brother rolled back in the 90s, a white 91 that he rolled back in the 90s. After Dad got this car, he took the engine out of that one and put it in this one. Like I said, he drove it a little bit and it burned the valve again. Metros don't like thick oil. Harvey drove it. Harvey was, he couldn't see very good at night, and he was driving home one night and ran through a creek, ran through a 5-strand barbed wire fence and ran through a creek, got it stuck in a cow pasture for a day or two. Another time he got it stolen when he was at his girlfriend's house, and they blew the clutch up trying to blow the car up. The car's been through a lot. With Danny, he was ran off the road multiple times by cars when he was on his way home or to work. Ran through fields and ditches and stuff to keep from hitting people. He was on his way to work one day and somebody rear-ended him. Rear-ended him so hard that the back of the car was pushed up under it and the seat back broke, and he ended up back here in the hatch covered with glass. We fixed that for him. It was hit by multiple deer, and then he hit a deer. Yes, it was hit by a deer, and then he hit a deer. Over a 12-year period, it hit at least 3 or 4 deer. Ran us pretty much out of parts, and that's the reason I didn't replace the hood the last time it happened. I just beat it back out. If we had sold it to anybody else but Danny, there's a good chance that it wouldn't be around anymore. You might see this car again. I'm not completely sure on what's going to end up happening to it. I'm kind of leaning towards this not being the end of this car story, but the beginning of another chapter, either by getting patched back together to where it can be driven longer, or by everything going into another car. Here's a section of the video that, for now, I'm calling the last drive.